On a standard 40 by 60 barndominium, the difference between building it yourself and hiring it out is roughly $114,000. That number is real, it is current, and it is also not a discount. Here are the two figures it comes from, both verified 2026 data. An owner-builder acting as their own general contractor finishes at $80 to $120 per square foot. A full-service contractor delivering a turnkey home with mid-grade finishes charges $120 to $175. Across 2,400 square feet, that is about $240,000 against $354,000 for the identical house. So this video does the honest arithmetic where that gap actually comes from, how much of it survives contact with reality, and what the contractor's fee genuinely buys you. And there is a third party in this decision who gets a vote almost nobody knows about. They can make the DIY number unavailable to you entirely, no matter how skilled you are. Before any comparison means anything, we have to fix a problem that ruins almost everyone you will read online. The phrase barndominium cost describes 4 different products, and people compare quotes across them constantly. Tier 1 is the shell kit materials only. Current 2026 pricing puts that at $20 to $35 per square foot, and a structural kit for a 40 by 60 runs $40,000 to $80,000. That is engineered steel and outer skin arriving on trucks, nothing else. Tier 2 is the shell delivered and erected, $45 to $65 per square foot. Now you have 4 walls, a roof, windows, and doors, a weather-tight building with a dirt-simple interior and no systems. Tier 3 is the owner-builder finished home, standard finishes, $80 to $120 per square foot. You acted as your own general contractor, hired the trades yourself, and did meaningful work with your own hands. Tier 4 is turnkey, a full-service contractor handling scope, coordination, and completion with mid-grade finishes, $120 to $175 per square foot. Now look at what that means in practice. A builder quoting $40 a foot and a builder quoting $140 a foot are not competing for your business. They are pricing entirely different scopes of work, and both numbers can be completely honest. The rule worth writing down: do not treat the shell as the house, treat it as the container. The house goes inside. Most barndominiums are half the price. Arguments are just 2 different scopes standing next to each other. This video compares Tier 3 against Tier 4, owner-builder against turnkey, same house, same finishes, same county. So put those 2 numbers side by side. The benchmark: a 40 by 60, 2,400 square feet standard finishes, both paths building the same house on the same land. Owner-builder, acting as your own general contractor, $80 to $120 per square foot. That is $190,000, $2,000 to $288,000. Take the midpoint and call it $240,000. Full-service contractor, turnkey with mid-grade finishes, $120 to $175 per square foot. That is $288,000 to $420,000, with a midpoint near $354,000. The gap at those midpoints is about $114,000. Now, 2 pieces of corroboration, because a single data set is never enough on a number this large. First, the national picture. The 2026 average total project cost for a complete barndominium sits near $230,000, with typical builds ranging from about $112,800 to $504,000. Notice where the owner-builder midpoint lands almost exactly on the national average. That is precisely what you would expect if a large share of these homes are owner-managed, which they are. The average barndominium in America is not a turnkey build. Second, the honest disagreement. Another 2026 dataset puts owner-builders acting as their own GC higher at $95 to $130 per square foot. That is roughly $15 a foot above the first source, and on this footprint, it moves the total by $36,000. I am telling you that because credible sources genuinely disagree here, and anyone quoting you a single precise figure for this is overselling their certainty. The honest statement is that the gap sits somewhere around six figures on a build this size, $100,000 and change. So where does it actually come from? Not where most people think. Break the gap into its parts, because the answer is genuinely surprising. Component 1 is the general contractor's fee. Contractors charge 10 to 20% of construction costs on a project this size, which works out to roughly $29,000 to $58,000 here. Across houses generally, contractor fees run $18,000 to $83,000. That is real money, and it is the piece everyone fixates on. Component 2 is markup on the individual pieces. The markup on labor and materials ranges from 8 to 45% depending on the item, and it is baked into the bid before the fee percentage is even calculated. You do not see it as a line. You see it as slightly higher numbers everywhere. Component 3 is the one nobody puts on a spreadsheet, and it is the biggest by a wide margin. Your labor. Not the trades you hire, the hours you personally work. Prepping and cleaning, hauling and stacking. Insulation prep. Painting every wall, laying flooring, running trim, hanging cabinets, fixtures, punch list. Plus the hundreds of hours that never feel like work, but absolutely are. Ordering materials, scheduling subs, chasing the ones who do not show, meeting inspectors, solving the problem that appears at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. Now, do the arithmetic. The contractor's fee is roughly a third to a half of that $114,000 gap. The rest of it is you. Which produces the sentence this entire video turns on. Firing the contractor saves you their fee. Doing the work saves you the rest, and the second one is far larger than the first. So what does that fee actually buy? Because it is not nothing, and pretending otherwise is exactly how DIY budgets die. Start with the least glamorous item, insurance. A contractor's fee covers general liability, builder's risk, workers' compensation, taxes, staff, and operations. Those are legal requirements in their business, not luxuries. When you self-manage, that coverage does not vanish, it becomes your problem to source or your exposure to carry. Then the subcontractor network, which is worth more than most owner-builders expect. A general contractor who brings a plumber repeat work all year gets pricing and scheduling priority. You, building one house once, get neither. The same plumber quotes two different numbers to those two customers, and neither quote is dishonest. That is just how trade relationships price risk and volume. Then sequencing, knowing that concrete has to be right before anything downstream matters. Knowing which inspection gates the next 3 trades. Knowing that if the roof is not on by a certain week, everything after it moves. Wrong order is not merely inconvenient, it is rework, and rework is the most expensive line item in construction. Then, accountability. A contractor warranties the work. When something fails in year 2, there is a name and a phone number. And finally, expertise priced honestly. Contractor hourly rates run $50 to $150 an hour. Every hour of judgment they supply is an hour you are otherwise supplying for free or supplying badly. So let's be fair about it. That fee is not a tax on your ambition. It is the price of transferring risk, coordination, and liability onto somebody else's balance sheet. There is one more thing a contractor buys that almost nobody accounts for, though access to money. That is where we finish. First, what DIY costs that no spreadsheet ever shows. Start with time, because it is the largest and the least visible. An owner-built barndominium takes considerably longer than a contracted one, months longer, often a year longer. And every one of those extra months is lived on a construction loan, which in 2026 runs 7.25 to 8.75% for construction to permanent financing, and KDIM, and 7.75 to 9.25% for a standalone construction loan. Those are not mortgage rates. A slow build is an expensive build, and interest does not care why the drywall crew never showed. Then tools, purchase or rental, plus the specialty items you need twice and own forever. Then mistakes, which is the single most underestimated line in owner building. The material is usually cheap. The second attempt is not. And on a first build, there will be second attempts. Then subcontractor pricing. Expect retail rather than trade for the reasons we just covered. Then the loan's own friction. Draw inspection fees of $100 to $300 every time you request funds, and origination running 1 to 2% of the loan amount. Then insurance you now carry directly. And the warranty question, which only arrives later when the roof leaks in year 2 and there is nobody to call because the builder was you. Added up honestly. None of this erases the gap. But between slower timelines, rework, retail pricing, and carrying costs, it routinely eats 15 to 25% of the savings before anyone notices, and it lands hardest on first-time builders. The $114,000 is not free money. It is gross revenue on a job you have not started yet. And now the part that can end this conversation before it begins. Here is the third party with a vote, your lender. Under a standard construction loan, lenders typically require a licensed, experienced contractor to lead the project, not prefer, require. The loan is structured around a builder they can evaluate, and if that builder is missing, the file does not move. To act as your own general contractor, you need a specific product, an owner-builder loan, sometimes called a self-build construction loan. And here is the number that stops most kitchen table plans cold. Fewer than 20% of lenders offer them at all. When you do find one, the terms tighten in every direction. Credit scores around 680 and up. Down payments of 25 to 30% instead of the standard 20 to 25. Complete architectural plans and detailed specifications before closing, not after. And documented proof of construction experience or an actual license. There is also a detail that catches people completely off guard. The lender must approve your builder, not just you. They review the builder's license, insurance, and financial stability. When you are the builder, you are the one under that microscope, and enthusiasm is not a qualification. Then the twist that reframes this entire video. A lender may require a licensed contractor despite local owner-builder exemptions. Read that again. Your state may legally permit you to build your own home while your bank simply declines to fund it. The law says yes, and the money says no, and the money wins. And run the cash math. An extra 5 to 10 points of down payment on a $240,000 build is $12,000 to $24,000 more cash required at the very start. You are, in effect, prepaying part of your own savings before a single footing is poured. The DIY discount is real. Whether you are allowed to have it is not entirely your decision. Which is exactly why most people who actually finish these builds do neither one purely. The path that most finished barndominiums actually take is a hybrid, and it is the smartest structure in this video. Contract out the shell erection and the licensed trades electrical, plumbing, HVAC. In many jurisdictions, those require licensed professionals regardless of how capable you are, so the decision is often made for you. Then self-perform the finish work, where mistakes are cheap and reversible. Painting, flooring, trim, cabinetry, fixtures, landscaping, the punch list. You capture a real share of the gap without owning the risk on the systems that flood, burn, or fail inspection. And some lenders will accept a hired construction manager on record, which can open financing that pure owner building would not. Now the trade-offs no path fixes. Spray foam is effectively mandatory on a metal building, and that is a cost this construction type carries that stick-built does not. Tall ceilings raise HVAC costs, both to install and to run. Financing, appraisal, and insurance all run harder than conventional. Some carriers are hesitant to insure metal homes at all, and others simply quote higher premiums. Get those quotes before you build, not after. And here is the correction the data demands, because it goes against the loudest voices online. Barndominiums typically run 15 to 30% cheaper than comparable stick-built construction, not the 50% that social media suggests. Against rural stick-built at $130 to $180 a foot, and a national stick-built average near $153, the advantage is genuinely real. It is just not magic. And anyone promising you half price is either confusing scopes or selling something. One page. Here is the whole thing on one page. 4 scopes, priced honestly. The shell kit, the shell erected, the owner, builder finished home, and the turnkey finished home. Compare only the last two against each other, and on a 4-0 by 6-0, the gap runs roughly $114,000. Where it comes from, 1/3 to 1/2 is the contractor's fee and the markup baked into the bid. The clear majority is your own labor, the hours you work, and the project you manage. What eats into it? A longer timeline carrying construction, loan interest, rework on a first build, retail pricing from subs, draw fees, insurance you now carry, and no warranty when something fails in year 2. Call it 15 to 25% of the savings, gone before you notice. And who decides whether you get any of it? Your lender before you do. So here is the verdict, and I want the wording exact. The true cost difference is not $114,000 in savings. It is a $114,000 job offer. Roughly a year of nights, weekends, and decisions. Paid at the end, not along the way. Contingent on financing you may not qualify for. With nobody to call when the roof leaks. Taken with clear eyes, that is one of the best paying jobs available to a person who has time and no license. Taken casually, it is exactly how builds stall half-finished with a tarp over the opening. 2 answers in the comments, and be specific. First, and do this before you pick a floor plan, before you price a kit, before anything, call a lender and ask one question. Do you write owner-builder construction loans? Their answer sets your budget, not your ambition. Tell me what they said. Second, which parts would you honestly self-perform? The whole build, the finish work only, or none of it? I read every comment, and I answer build questions personally. We cover alternative builds every week here. Real costs, real timelines, what works and what does not. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I will see you on the next build.